Okay, so I've been going around collecting all the Steves. We had Burke, and now we have Walton.
Discount Steve.
Discount? No, I wouldn't agree with that at all.
Computex 2026 coverage is proudly sponsored by Fantex, with support from Asus ROG, NZXT, Haven, and Cooler Master helping us bring you wall-to-wall coverage direct from Taipei.
Fun fact, you and I had an abrasive start to our communications and such, but I took everything you guys said to heart, and that's a lot of what led to me kind of trying to revamp the way we approach things. Okay. So if I want to put that out there, I appreciate the peer check. If you will.
You're welcome.
So, but the reason why we're talking with Steve today, and we're going to talk with Tim too, because I want to have more of like a software side discussion too, is you've been in the industry over 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but somewhere between 20 and 25.
Probably what feels like a lifetime.
We don't count the years at this point, Jay, just a long time.
No, because we're very close in age. And then I just thought it'd be interesting for us to talk about, what you kind of feel like the golden era was. Like if there was any part of PC gaming, hardware enthusiasts, when do you feel that was?
I don't know exactly when it was, but it was certainly, I felt very exciting almost all the time, at least up to Pascal. So probably the GTX generation of GPUs was, and if we go back to like the early days where I would have been in my early 20s, everything was fun then.
Because everything was a huge jump.
Yeah, it didn't really, because it was all sort of new and I was learning the ropes and that. It was all exciting. So there wasn't a dull moment back then.
Were you at the Pascal launch event in Texas?
I didn't go to that, because it's a bit far for us to travel. I mean, I was invited to go, but...
My only issue with that was I met Burke there for the first time. We were trapped. Right? And they bussed us off site to like a ranch and we were shooting shotguns.
Had you right where they wanted you.
Doing the whole, Texas experience. But it's like, I'm here to learn about some GPUs. Why are we at a horse ranch? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, Tim and I have never really been fans of that sort of stuff. It takes you away from creating content, doing testing, all that sort of stuff. And for us, for a 1 or 2 day event, it's really a whole week off.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're trying to build up the YouTube channel and stuff, you can't lose like a whole week of momentum. And then there's not really content you can make out of that.
No.
Ultimately, you're like flying back home to meet your sample to then do the testing to make the content.
Because in that particular event, the cherry was the keynote. Everything was before that. And then the keynote happened, and then it was like, okay, now we're all rushing back to our rooms to talk about it, and then it's time to go home.
Yeah, and I don't really like that side of things, that aspect of it. I prefer to do all my own testing rather than have them tell you how great it is and what it can do. It's fun to dig in, and because ultimately that's why we do it, right? We want to play with the tech. We don't want to. We're not really signed up for the slides and the PowerPoint presentations.
No. But I agree. Pascal was great. For me personally, one of my most exciting times was when I had the 8800 Ultra.
Yep.
Yeah, it was an EVGA 8800 Ultra.
Yeah, it's a good memory. That whole sort of thing's blurry to me.
The GTS 2 was amazing as a 320 megabyte card is what that one was. So that really dates it.
The most exciting time was probably when we measured VRAM in megabytes.
Yeah.
That was that was the most fun.
Yes.
So, and you think it was exciting when we get to the gigabytes, but and then we've got stuck on 8 for a while.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, now we have new products coming out with 12 gigabytes that are the same price. So interesting take on that one.
Yeah, yes, the GRE.
I did ask one of the AIBs, I'll kind of leave them anonymous in this video, but like why, I said, blink twice if you need help from, rescue from AMD, and you're like, because I feel bad for the AIBs in this situation.
Most of them didn't even want to talk about the GRE. They're like, yeah, we've got it, but whatever. It's like kind of an old product for some of them, and then an unexciting one for those who have new parts, because $550 US MSRP, it's just like, well, most of the retailers in Australia didn't even buy them in. So they spoke to me early on, have you got it, what's it like, and that, and couldn't share any details with them, but I'm like, well, I don't think it's going to be particularly great. And then when they saw the reviews, a lot of them said to me, I'm glad we didn't buy many or any, because they ended up, I think in Australia, costing more than the RX 9070.
Which makes no sense.
Makes no sense at all,
Yeah, here's less and it costs more. And that's why the AIB asked me, they said, well, what do you think it should have cost? I said, at a minimum, $499. By minimum, I mean, it should have been at least $499 or less.
Yeah, that's the target. We went with $500, basically,
Because, I mean, it's really the cut, there's a few cut down accelerators, and then obviously the 4 gigabytes less, right? But anything less than 16 these days, especially with a brand that's known to launch even their lower tier products with 16 gigabytes, I understand the current scope of where we are, but still, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, it has to make sense to buy ultimately, despite what the market's like, because you just do what most people are doing and not buy right now.
Yeah. Something else that was kind of around the same era of my 8800 Ultra was Core 2 Duo. Core 2 Duo was a fun time because I had a Pentium D and it was a
Back
hot
when you
mess.
could do water cooling and overclocking.
Yeah, and you actually got good results from it. Like there was true uplift.
Yep.
That was when Phenom was like okay, the X2 was okay. You know, what was it, the 1090T?
Yep.
But the Core 2 Duo was fun because I had a E6300, 1.86 gigahertz. I ran 3.42 all day for years.
Yeah, just the front side bus overclock.
That's all it was because it was my motherboard was locked down. But
Yeah.
those were the true like golden eras for me.
Definitely when, at least for me, the last time overclocking was fun because as you say, you got real gains and you could buy the cheaper parts and achieve the performance of the much more expensive parts.
Yeah.
That was just the whole point of overclocking. Whereas if it's you're squeezing you're putting a ton of time and effort in to squeeze a little bit out, and then you have to spend heaps of time validating that.
Right.
Whereas these kind of just all did it. Like they did it to I don't know the exact percentage, but it was like 20% or something or more, I can't remember. But you got good gains and they were pretty much guaranteed.
That was the thing. I remember, I think it was an Asus board, a P series, I can't remember what it was, but it would tell me like overclock 86%, you know, because that E6300. So it was funny to see that, and I thought for sure like any day this is not going to boot anymore, and not just that it became unstable, but that it's degraded or dead. And it lasted not only 5 years with me. I had given it to my brother-in-law, and he ran it for years.
Yeah, they seem to do it effortlessly.
Yeah.
It was the day before they degraded.
Well, for me, it's like that's when things like GPU boosts and turbo clocks and stuff really took a lot of the fun out of it, right? Because everyone advertised base clock, and then there's auto, boosting clocks. So the headroom that you can get out of it really is small these days.
I think that really speaks to the greater issue we've run into where, initially people attribute it to competition. So they were pushing these CPUs or GPUs or whatever it may be to the limits to compete better.
Right.
But really it was just, that was certainly part of it, but the other probably greater part was the fact that they were getting to the end of that rapid progress.
Right.
So for the next gen to actually offer a substantial gain, they had to like really push it, which is what we're seeing with like 590s and 5090s, I mean. You're seeing the power ramp right up.
Have you seen some of the TDP leaks of the new Intel stuff?
The desktop CPUs, I've heard like 300 watts.
400.
Yeah, that's
I was told
insane.
400 today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, here we go again, right?
Yeah, I heard it was quite high, so I'm not sure if. Yeah, I won't jump to any conclusions yet on that one. I don't know if that's some sort of crazy high core count part.
I can't understand that. I know obviously they have a lot of distance to make up, right? They have a lot of trust to rebuild. And I'm a little concerned now that did they just crank the knob again? Do they, we've already, 13th and 14th gen fiasco, obviously.
Yeah.
That TDP is just kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that.
Because you would require, honestly, water at that point. Not many air towers really could handle that level of cooling. I mean, it's like trying to cool, that's more than a Threadripper. A Threadripper runs at 350 default.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but that'll be fun for, CS announcement?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I know, Intel's got to do something though, but right now I feel like they're in this kind of a rebuilding phase anyway.
Yeah, well the main thing I'm hearing from motherboard manufacturers is they're expecting at least 3 like architectural upgrades on that socket, possibly more, which they really need to do in order for us to even talk about Intel, because it sounds like, AM5's definitely doing Zen 6.
Yeah.
Sounds like from what I'm hearing Zen 7, so there was rumors about a year ago that would be on AM5, which I found kind of hard to believe, but they just did announce that extended socket support with architecture, so it doesn't guarantee anything, but it sounds like it's going to be another sort of repeat of AM4.
Well, I talked about the announcement with Burke about them supporting AM5 through 2029. That's when he speculated that maybe 27 we'll see Zen 6, but then he was worried that maybe them pushing out support like that is them potentially pushing out the whole product stack. We all speculate, that means nothing, but...
That could certainly happen. I don't think that's what they're doing based on what they've been saying, but not sure on that one.
Well, hey, thanks for talking with me today. We're gonna get Tim on here now because I want to talk about, I watched the RTX stuff that he covered here. I watched, obviously, the FrameGen video recently that he put out. I think a lot of the satire was lost in that video. I don't think people realized how much satire was actually in there. I did, obviously, but I
was just in the background.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get Tim on. Steve, thanks for talking with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you in person finally.
All right, see you guys.
Okay, so here I am with Tim. So I wanted to talk to you about some software stuff, right?
Sure.
We're at this crossroad where brute force, right, raster, that's the past. And gamers are obviously, I remember when DLSS first came out, And it was a hot mess.
Yeah.
Right? I think we can all agree on that,
Yeah.
especially with the Battlefield 5 demo, my playing with it, the noise, the artifacting.
it wasn't good.
Right. But I think universally people can agree DLSS is great now.
Yeah.
In terms of upscaling, with it feeling like native, it runs on lower end hardware now, great. Now we're talking about obviously 4.5, ray reconstruction, obviously DLSS 5. Not talking about the slop side of it, but that's kind of like the major key point of it. You got to be hands-on with RTX Spark just like me. So knowing that chip contains that entire product stack in it, do you feel like gamers have to just get used to now the software side of hardware? Like these are now harmonious and that's just the way it is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think what NVIDIA has shown is that they're investing a lot in software features. So like, yes, they're investing in hardware. I think we've seen sort of, where that's going in terms of pricing, but that a lot of the advancements they're making and have actually been genuinely good improvements for gamers has been some of the software features like upscaling. Ray reconstruction I think is pretty good, and then frame generation is if you're in the right conditions.
The demo of ray reconstruction was really impressive.
Yes,
what
that's
they showed,
right.
with the laser going into the distance.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously they announced 4.5 upscaling at the start of this year, but it was not compatible with ray reconstruction because it's a combined model. So they put the denoising and upscaling together. The model for ray reconstruction wasn't ready.
But now it's on transformer model.
That's right. So it's fully working, the combined model with the 4.5 upscaling features we saw at the start of the year with now the better denoising. I thought it looked, pretty good. And they keep improving it to the point where whenever I sort of go, that's an artifact that I've seen in a particular game or whatever, it comes out like 6 months later that they've tried to address it, they've tried to improve it. So I think, like you say, a lot of the benefits that we're now getting on GPUs are these software advancements. And the good news is if you bought an RTX GPU, the features are available way back to the 20 series. In some cases, maybe not frame gen, but certainly the other stuff.
What's your testing experience been like with FSR on maybe lower end NVIDIA products, or just as a whole, as a competitor to DLSS?
Yeah, I mean, I think FSR 4.1 now is in a pretty good spot. So if you're using a Radeon card, the 9000 series that supports it, it's pretty good. It's probably not still at the level of DLSS 4.5 in terms of overall quality, but it's more nitpicky than it used to be. I think previously when people were using like FSR 3, right, you turn it on, you're like, it's not as good as DLSS. Now it's more, if you're in the right conditions, it looks pretty good. But then, their ray reconstruction equivalent is not in as many games, it's much newer. Their frame generation, we found some issues where it's kind of broken. And then of course there's the issue where you can't really use FSR 4.1 on older GPUs. They've only just announced that. So that's been one of my main sort of sticking points with them is it's great if you've got the latest tech, but unlike with NVIDIA, if you even just had a generation old product, it wasn't available for you to use.
Well, that's usually the biggest gripe from consumers, right? Is they're locked out of a feature tech because it's hardware limited. Right. But frame gen. Hot take. Ready? If it was never called AI upscaling or AI frame gen, do you think consumers would have maybe been less resistant to it?
I certainly think if they could have marketed it in a different way, that people would have been coming to it with a much more maybe neutral perspective. I think the thing that really killed it for a lot of gamers was it being advertised as this performance feature for a new generation. So they announced a new gen, they're like, hey, you can double your frame rate.
5070 equals 4090 wasn't the best look.
No. I think if they had gone from the start and sort of said, look, if you've got a good gaming configuration right now, like you're getting 60 FPS, but you were sort of not quite happy with the level of clarity, you've got a high-end monitor, you bought an OLED or whatever, then they could have gone, well, you can add some more frames in, it'll look smoother for you, it'll look clearer for you, and they could have shown demos where that was true, but instead what they just went with is the easy FPS is higher now. I think that sort of
just ignoring the latency discussion.
Yeah, that's right. Like they're just like, frames, whatever, it's higher is better, let's make the bar graphs longer. But yeah, I think there genuinely was a way to market it that was more accurate and still would have told people the benefit of it, but they didn't do that.
I think the moment it was called, AI frame gen was just, that was immediate pushback because AI had already started disrupting the industry. And so there's just this immediate rejection of it, which I understand why. We talked about this 1,000 times, where you stand on AI, because it's a whole spectrum. You can't, those two letters do not encompass different use cases, different types of LLMs, Frontier, all the different uses. But there's just an immediate blanket pushback, and I think some of the tech is neat, right? Especially when we talk about frame gen and such. If I can toggle something that increases my performance, right? Because automatically it gets reflex, right? Because you have to have a reflex, and I don't notice the input latency. I personally don't care what the end result is, like how they got there. If I'm not giving up quality of image, and I'm not giving up input, then I don't care. And that's the hot take, because a lot of people feel like, oh, but these are fake frames. It's like, well, define fake frame. I understand there's AI involved in that, but if the end result is good, I don't think it should matter.
Yeah, I think fake frames are certainly bad if you're running at a really low frame rate, because then you're seeing the fake frames a lot. But yeah, like you said,
for it to really matter, sorry to cut you off, but for it to really matter, you need a good starting base frame rate.
That's right. I've been a bit critical of frame generation in the videos, but if I'm getting a good base frame rate and it's like a slower paced single player game, it's the right conditions, I'm not really, like I'm using a controller, for example, I use frame generation. Like, it works well, and because I've got a high refresh rate monitor, I'm getting, there's genuine benefits to be had. But of course, if you're on the lower end of the spectrum, it's a very different experience. So I think people, maybe push back from that a little bit.
It's like the early days of ray tracing, right? Yeah. Unless you were running an 8090 tier or TI 2080 Ti something, the impact was so high that nobody turned it on. But it's gotten a lot better now, obviously, with the different presets and such. But so, do you think it's fair to say then that the general consumers just have to get used to these software stacks that accompany hardware because they're designed to work harmoniously?
I think so, and I think I see some people sort of still in this mindset that DLSS upscaling is never going to be as good as native rendering or whatever. When I think it's the opposite, that a lot of the time in games, native rendering now looks worse than upscaled DLSS. And so if
I've never
that's the
tested
case,
that direction, actually. So I don't have any first-hand experience of comparing images going, where native was worse. But are there a use case where you can,
Yeah, I think in a lot of games, like if you're just talking about like TAA, native TAA versus like DLSS 4.5 with quality upscaling, especially like 4K and those sort of things, the DLSS image will look better because the TAA algorithm is really basic. And so, I think we still see pushback from people being like, I'm only going to play native. If it's not native, I don't care. I'm not going to use these features. But I actually think for a lot of people, the experience you can get with DLSS is better than that, and then can even perform better. And then if you're in the right sort of conditions, you can add things like frame gen on top.
I think there's this general fear that there's going to be a day when you have to run FSR or DLSS. Like there's no other option, there's no native option. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think that's a lot of people's biggest fear. And I think they think it's truly a Band-Aid,
Yeah, I think it was a Band-Aid back when they sort of were advertising along with ray tracing. Sort of this idea, you turn on ray tracing and then use upscaling to fix the performance loss. But I think they've improved it to the point now where it is a genuine just improving the experience technology. And of course you can run DLSS natively. Like you can use DLAA or you can use FSR native AA. And so that is going to be better quality than the upscaled version. But I think for a lot of people, yes, even if a game didn't have a native version, that it's not necessarily a downgrade to be using something like upscaling in these games. But I totally understand where you're coming from, because you see a lot of that pushback. Spec sheets come out, the new game has been...
We can't trust them anymore. Like you guys showed with Lego Batman. Right, I was really appreciative of that video because I had just done the one about Windrose, and I'm like, look, this is an odd situation. It's early access, it's an indie developer. They don't get access to the engineers like the big devs do. So I was like, hey, look, this is an example where in this particular environment where you've built this big city, you have to enable frame. I'm on a 5090 and I have to run 3x frame gen to get a usable frame rate without it really looking bad. The friends I play with some of them are running 3080s, others are on like 9070 XTs, and their experience obviously is not very good because the base frame rate is so low. And I got a lot of pushback from people on that saying, well, that's a UE problem, that's a dev problem. But then the Lego Batman video came out. I'm like, okay, look, now it's the same sort of scenario, but now we're talking about them using it as a marketing opportunity. And so now you just feel like you're kind of not being lied to, but you're sort of not getting the full story. Yeah,
the Lego Batman thing was quite strange. I'm not sure how they came to the conclusion that the level of frame gen they were advertising was required. The game runs okay from what I've seen.
But it's like they advertised it, so a lot of people immediately were just like, oh my God, you have to run the frame gen on it. But that led to what your idea of doing the 120x frame gen was, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was right. So yeah, that was just me sort of goofing around, sort of seeing, where's this technology going? I think, the example of like 10 FPS to 1200 FPS is kind of, I don't think that'll ever be good. But certainly like the 6th gen frame generation, if you've got a high enough frame rate monitor, you're running in the right base frame rate mode, it works pretty well. But once you start doing the lossless scaling stuff on top, it gets, a bit silly.
I feel like that's a topic we have to talk about again someday, where a lot of people keep forgetting about the panel. The panel is like the piece that a lot of people don't think about. I see people build really nice high-end rigs and I'm just gonna run my TV. And it's like, okay, you understand you've just created now what I think is not going to be a great experience. Maybe they're ignorant, they don't know any better because they've never seen a high-end panel or a high refresh rate panel, low response time, and not really knowing what they're missing out on.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you move from like a 60 hertz LCD to a 60 hertz OLED, 60 hertz OLED looks a lot more choppy. So you need to use either like motion blur or something like frame generation to make it look smoother. They really benefit more from that high frame rate type of gaming. Whereas an LCD back in the day, they're quite blurry in some cases. But yeah, a lot of people forget about the display and they're coming down in price. Unlike a lot of other components, they actually get cheaper over time.
Oh, and that's what makes MPRT so interesting too. So many people are against motion blur, right? And MPRT being a thing, but like you said, OLED does have some invert and choppiness to it. So it's kind of like now we've got these two opposing forces, right?
Yeah, that's right. You do need to run OLEDs at a little bit of a high frame rate if you can to avoid that. Certainly once you're at a high frame rate, they look really smooth because of how fast they are. But for the low frame rate content, it's, maybe not as optimal as I would like. But yeah, I mean, I would love for people to consider upgrading their monitor in a time when, PC hardware, GPUs are not very attractive, CPUs not very attractive. But
and
I think
prices are coming down.
That's unlike everything else. Like we've seen some monitors at this show that are sort of pushing the boundaries of pricing. I just recently tested a $350 1440p QD OLED. It may not have the highest end HDR specs and everything, but you're getting the motion. It's 240 hertz, 1440p, deep blacks, all that.
Which panel was that?
It was from Dell Alienware.
I have, we did receive that one. We just haven't had time to test it yet.
It works well.
When I saw the specs on that, I went, okay, we need to look at this. Right, and then if you're saying you liked it, then that's giving me some excitement for that.
It's good, it's one of the cheapest I've seen replacing LCDs in that price range.
It was $350, right?
That's what they said, and I believe it's on sale now for people to buy at that price. So they didn't lie to me or anything, it works well. Like I said, it's not necessarily the top end spec that you see from the more expensive stuff, but
still, it ticks all the right boxes.
It does, especially if you're an LCD gamer before and you sort of had previously bought monitors in that price range. But like GPUs, would we see things coming down to $350? Probably not.
Those days are probably long gone. Even a 50-tier GPU isn't $350.
That's right,
So, well, Tim, thanks for talking with me today.
Yeah, it's great
nice
to
meet you
chat.
in person.
Yeah.
It's been 8 years since I've been to Computex, and it's been definitely questioning life's choices today, especially while I'm sitting here in the rain. So, well, we're going home tomorrow. This is our last video of the week, so thanks for watching, guys. We'll go back to regular programming where we're not blowing up your inbox, so you guys can actually, not feel like you gotta just ignore the whole content because of the fact that you're getting exploded. But we were on a mission to find anything that was worth talking about here, and I think we found some stuff, but man, it was depressing. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Oh, make sure you follow Hardware Unboxed. We'll put a link to their channel down below. If on the off chance you've never heard of them, there they are. So, thanks for watching, guys.